Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the tabletop. And today we have got another really awesome knife review for you. And this one is not going to fit into the budget knife category. I mean, it might be budget for some people, but it sure as hell ain't budget for me. Today we're going to be talking about the Tops Moccasin Ranger knife. Now, I didn't pay for this knife, and Tops didn't send it to me. The channel is not anywhere near that point yet. But this knife was sent to me many moons ago by a good friend, a digital pen pal, if you will. So, buddy, if you're out there and you somehow catch wind of this video, thank you so much. I still cherish this knife every day, and hope all is well for you. And I miss talking to you. So, the Tops Moccasin Ranger. Now, you guys, I can give you initial impressions like I do on the other videos. But this is not a brand new knife. This is a knife that I've owned for a number of years. So I've already got my initial impressions, but I will talk to you about that. But, you know, right off the gate, you see a really cool, just slick knife. And I really like Tops, their little story that goes behind this knife. They give you like a little excerpt of where their inspiration for this knife came. And when you go to their website and you click on this, it says, from an article appearing in the Sportsman's Gazette, July 2002, the article stated, one of the most cherished personal effects a soldier will have is a high-quality custom or semi-custom knife. Tops of Idaho Falls have become extremely popular with those rough men who allow us to sleep soundly. Tops models are currently deployed with U.S. forces around the globe. This knife was named in honor of the famed Cherokee Moccasin Rangers of World War II. The design, strength, and performance of this knife has made it a popular choice among hardcore individuals for many years. This is proven reliability for men that cannot quit, it says. The night was cold, the moon was low, and the enemy was in sight. So, now, I think everybody should have in their knife collection, in their repertoire, at least one or two higher end premium knives to kind of go with your budget knives and your really budget knives. Some people have far more high budget premium knives in their collection. And myself, I've only got a few, and this is one of them. This thing retails for $235 on Topps website, and I don't know, you know, the guy that sent it to me, I don't know where he bought it from or how much he paid for it, but that's what this knife retails for on Topps website if you go there in 2023. I got this back in like 2019, I believe. So initial impressions, if you were going to open this knife up for the first time, very first thing you notice is, boy, she is heavy. This thing has some weight. And Topps, they put the specs at the weight of this knife at 15.3 ounces. So just 7 ounces shy of a full pound. That's a heavy knife. This is not, you know, your granola eating ultralight Appalachian Trail type knife. Although I guess if you're only running like 20 pounds, you could probably afford to carry a 1 pound knife, especially with the type of self-defense blade that this could be. But, you know, for 235 bucks, Topps gives you a custom to the blade Kydex sheath with a really nice spring steel, and you can adjust the cant of the knife and the carry. If you want to carry it vertical carry, horizontal carry, you can do that. And what I do like about this is you can take it on and off your belt or put it on your web gear or whatever very nicely, very easily. You don't have to take your whole belt off to put this belt or to put this knife on. So I really like that. Retention is pretty much perfect right from Topps. You can hear it's got a nice positive click. So nice, good, high quality Kydex sheath with a nice, good steel spring clip. Just really good, well done sheath. All right, so we'll put that off to the side. And now we can kind of see this bad boy beast of a knife. Now, Topps calls this point a hunter point, but I mean, you know, it's a clip point. And, you know, this is the type of point that is really made for penetration, you know, stabbing. If you really want a knife point that's going to penetrate deep with some thrusting, this is certainly the type of point that's going to do that. This thing is a beast of a blade, okay? A 1/4 inch thick. you can see there. Let me just make sure my, all right, get my autofocus set. So 1/4 inch thick of a blade. I mean, you're not bending this blade. You're not breaking this blade. 1095 high carbon steel blade, Rockwell hardness of around, I believe, 58 to 62, if I'm not mistaken, 56 to 58. Okay, so, and really just really nice kind of custom feel to this knife. I mean, when you hold this knife, you just, it exudes and exemplifies quality from a really nice American made knife. You get the Moccasin Ranger engraved on the knife. You get the Tops logo also laser etched, and then on the back, or well, on the other side, you have USA. So no mistaking that this knife is proudly made in the United States. And then they've also got the model number etched down in there. They call these black linen micarta handles. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure that if you can get different colors. I would imagine that you can. But this one's kind of like an OD, sort of like maybe like a Ranger green and like almost like a black wood green. Just the hilt of the knife. I mean, you can see how far it extends out to the lanyard hole there. I mean, you want to talk about something that you could, do some smashing with. I talk about it, in a self-defense situation or something. If you're going to mash somebody on the skull with this thing, if you had to, like a get off me kind of tool, smash out a window. I mean, buddy, this thing's going to have zero problems doing that. This is a once in a lifetime heirloom type of knife. I mean, unless you just do some totally ridiculous things with this knife, you're not going to break it. Obviously, Tops is going to give you that lifetime warranty, but you're not going to destroy this knife. I mean, this is, like I said, if you want a good quality premium knife to add to your collection, really anything by Tops. But this knife is kind of cool because it kind of harkens back to the Indian fighting knives, from both sides, right? The Indian fighters and the Indians, and it's like a modern take on an old kind of classic uh, fighting knife. And but it's also a great survival knife in the aspect that you've got basically a full saber grind on this thing. You are not like. Let's get back to the specs here for a second. Um, but you're not going to get this thing stuck in the wood if you decide to baton with this. Now, it's not really a chopping style blade, um, but you certainly could chop with this if you want to, because it's got the weight and it's got the heft to it that if you did need to do some chopping duties with it, which I have, it's good for lopping off little limbs because it just has so much weight to it. And with the way that the grip kind of slopes down into the back there, and you know, you've got this forward finger choil if you really need to choke up on it for skinning and feather sticking type work. But then you've also got kind of like this secondary choil here, and then you can see how it's got this kind of bevel to it. And what's nice about this is you can kind of get the blade, like you can kind of do this 2 finger thing right here, and you can kind of really just kind of lop and chop with it if you had to. And the knife just has so much weight that it kind of can be a chopper because of the weight, even though the blade profile is not really indicative of a true chopper. We've got multiple sets of jimping here on the spine of the blade. And I've talked about jimping in the past, and I finally have a really good example of what I mean and what I think is jimping done well and jimping done perfectly. And I've said that, look, if you're not going to do jimping properly, then don't do any jimping at all. And I've talked about like broad, shallow jimping, and that's exactly what we've got here. And this is a perfect example. And you can see how that jimping on this blade, when I mean broad, is I mean it's not really tight and close together. So even though there's jimping there, that jimping has really good surface area for your thumb. So you're going to get that grip that you expect out of jimping, but it's not going to be sharp and harsh on your finger. It's not going to cut you. And then we've also got that secondary jimping further back on the handle, and it's incorporated directly into the scales and the tang of the knife, that jimping there. So, and it does give you some extra grip. I could see where if you were doing a lot of work with this knife, uh, this jimping back here could potentially give you a hot spot until your hand got used to it. So, because this is 1095 high carbon steel, so that steel is perfect for striking a ferro rod, but you can't do it with the spine of the blade. It's not really a 90-degree spine, and it's got that really thick, heavy, almost like Cerakote on it from the factory, from Tops. And because of that, you just cannot strike a ferro rod with this spine of this knife at all. But if you had to in an emergency situation, you certainly can do it with the bevel, the sharp part of the blade. So, if you found yourself to where you were in a survival situation with this knife and you did have to strike a ferro rod, I'm not a big fan of striking ferro rods on the bevel of the blade, but if you had to, you had to. And if you have something with you to touch it up, then you're probably going to be okay. And this is such a high quality, hard, treated blade that you're probably going to be just fine striking the ferro rod with the edge of this every so often. So, but you know, you can't go wrong with Tops. You can't go wrong with their knives as far as made in the United States, premium quality, and just something that you can use, not abuse, but it will take abuse if that's the way you treat your knives. So, but this is a really cool knife. And to be honest, I don't really use this knife very often. This is just kind of like it's obviously I've used it. I mean, you can tell I have used it. But for the type of things that I do, it's just not super, super practical. For one, it's heavy. It's not actually not the easiest knife in the world to get a really, really keen edge on. And I think that's because of just how well it's hardened. I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, and there's probably people out there that are far better knife sharpeners than me that could really get a good edge on this. But I found that it just doesn't take an edge as easily as some of my other knives in D2 tool steel, and some of the cheaper, more milder steels. And that's fine. I mean, to each their own. That's not a knock against this knife at all. It's really, if anything, it's a knock against me. But to be quite honest, I don't really use this knife all that often just because for me, it's not a super practical knife in the regard of just a kind of a EDC knife. This is a serious knife, and if the dead were walking amongst us, or the crap got into the fan, um, or if I knew I was going to some insanely austere environment where it was just going to be a major, like fight for your life or something every day, like this knife is made for extreme duty, extreme conditions, and when I'm out in the field and the types of things that I'm doing, I really have come to like a little bit of a lighter weight, uh, smaller blade. This blade is 6.5 inches long, and this knife is almost a foot long overall. So it's not exactly, uh, a super carry friendly knife. This to me is a niche kind of knife. You know, if I was going somewhere where, maybe like a rendezvous or something like that, and we're kind of bringing out some of our better knives and I want to impress people, I guess, this is probably one of the knives that I may throw on my hip, just because of the name that it carries and the knife that it is. Um, but, as far as like having a badass knife in your collection for when times or the situation calls for something heavy duty and badass, well, you don't get much more heavy duty and badass than this right here. And that's the God's honest truth. I mean, this thing is absolutely no joke. Fighter, survival knife, you name it. She's pretty freaking sweet. And a really cool knife just to have in your collection for sure. but at $235, not exactly super budget friendly. So I don't believe I would probably own this knife if someone didn't give it to me as a gift. So just put it to you like that. So that's as far as the specs on the knife go. That's pretty much it. Overall length 11.75 inches, blade length 6.5, cutting edge. You've got a cutting edge of 5.88 inches, so over 5 3/4 edge of the surface is cutting surface. Blade thickness, quarter of an inch. That's a serious thick blade. As I said, hunter's point, clip point, 1095 RC, 56 to 58 Rockwell hardness, black traction coating they call it, and black linen micarta handles that we talked about that are really, really nice and comfortable and durable. Overall knife weight 15.3 ounces. With the sheath, it's 19.3 ounces. So with the sheath, I mean, you're carrying um, over a pound of weight. And that's significant depending on what you're doing, the activities that you're doing, and how lightweight you may be trying to stay. So um, that's pretty much it as far as the specs go. So, oh yeah, there was this other little thing that tops. So it says honoring Gray Otter of the Cherokee Nation, who used both knife and tomahawk while serving as leader of the famed Moccasin Rangers of World War II, who trained instructors with these weapons for the Korean and Vietnam War. And then there is a picture of him, uh, Marine Corps gunnery sergeant, and he is a hard-looking dude, jump wing, scuba bubble, purple heart, with looks like a bronze purple heart with star. So yeah, he looked like he's a dude that would eat the steel of this knife and crap out 8 penny nails, if you catch my drift. So don't know if he's still alive. I didn't look into a lot of the details behind the Moccasin Rangers, but I'm definitely going to, because I love military history anyway, and definitely would like to look into their story a little bit more. So, all right, guys. Well, that is it for the review of the Tops Knives Moccasin Ranger. Really cool, hardcore, badass knife that could do some work if you needed it to. So some of us feel like this is the type of knife that we need to carry on our adventures. And if I was going to Alaska brown bear hunting or something, I might carry this knife. This might be the one that ends up going, or at least it's gonna go, and it's gonna be, you know, in the lineup of choices. So all right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all. I appreciate the new subscribers, the old subscribers, if there is such a thing on this channel. But if you're stopping into the channel for the first time, if you don't subscribe, hey, at the very least, give it a thumbs up, comment. I love the comments. I love talking with you guys. Been getting a lot of great comments on the channel, and it's fun talking with you guys. But obviously, subs and thumbs up really continue to help the channel grow. And hey, eventually maybe we can get the channel to the point to where Tops does send me a knife to review for free, which would be really, really cool. So, all right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you on the happy hunting grounds.